But given the challenges which this sector is facing, we all know the challenges which agriculture is facing. I will share a few of them in the next slide. We are saying transformation of this sector is important and is inevitable if we really want to transform the country, if we want to improve the living standards, the livelihoods of the people of Tanzania. Among the challenges which the sector is facing includes the fact that it is rain-fed agriculture. In Tanzania, we are running a rain-fed agriculture, which is dominated by subsistence farming. Very small proportion of the agricultural output goes through the market. Most of it is subsistence, and we are using mainly traditional methods. There is a very low technological or technology absorption rate. We are using very, very significant proportion of the productivity enhancing factors, like improved seeds and fertilizer. And that's why we are experiencing very low productivity, and we are experiencing food and nutrition insecurity in the country. We also have very limited agro-industry in Tanzania. We have very limited, for example, agricultural-based industry, if you like, rural-based industry. We used to have industries, rural-based industries or agricultural-based industries in the 70s, 80s, I think, if my memory is correct. Yes. When we established, it was growing very fast, particularly in the textile industry. We all remember that. We had many industries. But somehow, somewhere, I don't know what happened, those industries are no longer there. And yet, we know the advantages of having rural-based industries. So we have very limited agro-processing. But we are also facing the problems related to climate change, because climate change is posing a serious risk to the ongoing efforts to transform the sector. We all know that. And there are so many other challenges, which include a poorly developed infrastructure. The infrastructure is poorly developed to support agriculture, like road network. We have very limited financing for agriculture, despite many declarations, including the Maputo one, and the recent one, what is the name again? I don't remember. There's another one, maybe it will come later. But we also have difficulties with market linkages and problems related to quality and standards of our products. So that is the background. And this study basically focuses on 4 of those challenges. Trade, it is focusing on in the agro-industry, it is focusing on climate change, and lastly, food and nutrition security. In terms of the study problem, let me say that we all know that there is a strong relationship between these 4 areas, very strong relationship, and we are saying this relationship is not well known and it's not well acknowledged sufficiently, because they are not known. So it is not. That is the bottom line. That is the central part of the problem of this study. There is a very strong relationship between these 4 areas, which brings results. That linkage comes up with the results. Some of them are good results in terms of the they are like opportunities. The linkages, as we shall see later, they produce opportunities, and sometimes they produce risks and threats, which we are not acknowledging, and they are not clear to the public. They are not even taken into account by our policies and so on. So that is the central problem, and I've given some examples there. Since you have the slides and the copy of the slides, I hope, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to say much about it, because I think it is clear. The linkages produces results which are partly beneficial, like opportunities, like spillover benefits, if you like. They are spillover benefits, but some of them are spillover costs, and nobody talks about it in a manner of making use of those opportunities or mitigating those threats and so on. This is saying the same thing, so I should skip that. Now, in terms of the objective, we are this project is intended to identify and fill knowledge gaps of agro-industry development related policies. To identify and fill the knowledge gaps related to those policies, which are also associated to climate change, food security, and trade in Tanzania. The specific objectives, you can run through the slides on your own to save time. I'm not going to go through one after another. But overall objective is, to identify and fill knowledge gaps of the agro-industry development related policies, which are also associated with trade, with climate change, and with food security in Tanzania. Chairperson, in terms of methodology, we selected two subsectors or crops, and that is cassava and paddy. And why did we select those? We were mainly looking at the crops which have the effect of, or they are vulnerable to climate change. So we are looking for those qualifications. But secondly, crops which, we have evidence that there is dominance of women or gender perspective in the processing and production and marketing. But we are also looking at the high relevance to food security, food and nutrition security. Crops which have, relevance to food and nutrition security. And lastly, we are looking at the marketability of the product, both locally and outside the borders. And so our survey, the survey was conducted in two districts of Tanzania. One district in Morogoro and the other one in Coast Region. In Coast Region, we selected in Kuranga district, and in Morogoro, we selected in Bomero, because they are among the leading producers of cassava and paddy in the country. And in addition to literature review, which we did using the survey instruments, we conducted interviews in those two districts. We covered, officials of the district councils, farming households. We also covered traders and the processors, including exporters, So we collected information on production, information on processing, information on trade, information on women participation, and so on. Okay, I think it is also sitting in the copy of the slides which you have. Now, what is the status of our national policy framework? First of all, I must say that supportive policies, regulations, and monitoring system are very critical. They are very important, basically, if at all one has to, if we want to, our agro-processing and trade are to feed Tanzania and East Africa in the middle of problems related to climate change. So supporting policies, regulations, and monitoring system, they are very important. And if we want Tanzania and East Africa to improve competitiveness of agro-industry subsector, those are very important. Policies, regulations, and monitoring. Now, what is happening in Tanzania in terms of agro-industry and the relationship with the other three areas? We will all accept and agree that the government, through the different ministries, particularly in this case the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, but also Ministry of Industries, Trade and Investment, the Division of Environment in the Vice President's office, etc., has adopted a number of policies, and not only policies but also strategies. But we also have programs, and regulatory framework, which are aiming at governing agro-industry, trade, food security, and climate change. There is no secret about it. We all know that. And these policies and regulations, they include, I'll run through a few of them. They include National Agricultural Policy of 2013. This is a revised policy because we had another one, the 1997 one. But if you look at this policy, you realize that among its major objectives, there are many issues there, but among its major objectives is to address challenges which are related to agro-industry. It is clearly spelled out in that policy. The Small and Medium Enterprise Development Policy of 2003 also emphasizes the promotion of small and medium-scale enterprises, including the rural-based industries, or including the agricultural-based industries. Our national trade policy also has clearly stated its close link with the agro-industries as a means to increase the quality and the value of the food products and so on. So those three policies are clear evidence that agro-industry is also being considered. But if you look at the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy of 1992, also you notice that agro-industry comes up very prominently in that policy, because that is a way of improving the nutrition of our food and so on. If you look at the CDIP, the Sustainable Industrial Development Policy of 1996, also talks about small-scale industries, including agro-industries and so on. And in addition to all those policies I've mentioned, there are a number of strategies, a number of programs, and a number of acts and regulations which have also been adopted or passed by the government. One example is in the dairy industry or the subsector. There is this Dairy Industry Act number 8 of 2004, which is establishing the board, the Tanzania Dairy Board, TDB. And if you look at that act, you will see that the board, the Tanzania Dairy Board, is mandated to promote, to regulate, develop the industry to scale up production and ensure a wider distribution and consumption of milk and milk products in Tanzania and outside the country. Dairy industry regulations also, which came up in 2007, which empowers the board to regulate. For example, there is a statement there which says, no person shall operate any dairy before being registered by the board, etc. There are so many statements there. The 2012 subsidiary legislation, which came a little bit later than the dairy industry regulation, and this is intended to regulate imports and exports of milk and milk products. Kwa sababu imports are, wote tunajua jinsi maziwa na milk products zinavyoingia nchini bila regulation, bila utaratibu, na kuathiri our domestic performance, domestic industry. But we have also these regulatory authorities. Tuna hiyo TFDA, act yake ilikuwa ni ya 2003, lakini tuna pia ile ya Bureau of Standards, act yake ni ya 2009, but we also have the National Environmental Act. The list is long. I just wanted to share a few of them. Now, all these policy framework are also well linked with the national policy umbrella, our vision 2025, national vision 2025. Lakini pia zile national policy frameworks like the 5-year development plan 2, now we have 2, na kadhalika. I actually dare now to say that agro-industry in Tanzania is integrated in a number of national and sectoral policies, including the legal framework. That is in terms of policy, regulation, and therefore the monitoring framework. Tanzania has made, you know, a notable step, notable progress. But the country, and that is my concern now, the country has not been able to translate its policies and regulations into practice. In other words, what we see in these policy documents and regulations or legal framework do not match, you know, what takes place on the ground. That's the point we want to make, which is a serious concern. And the capacity of our country to administer and enforce implementation of policies and regulations is limited. Maybe very limited. It's very limited. That's why these policies are not implemented. Now, the nexus between these four areas, that is agro-industry, trade, food security, and climate change. I thought I should start by asking whether we have supportive policies in Tanzania or we don't. Do we have supportive policies to agro-industry or we don't? My answer here and my two colleagues is yes. The policies are supportive, judging from the availability of the policy documents, those which I have gone through, and a long list of strategies, of programs, and regulations. And we are saying this is probably a necessary achievement, a necessary step, or necessary condition, if you like, but not a sufficient one. And if we really want to be there, we need both. The necessary condition plus we need to achieve the sufficient condition. And I'm saying, much as most policies acknowledges the importance of agro-industries and you know, importance of other areas, none of them makes a clear pronunciation on the linkage between agro-industry, trade, food security, and the climate change. None of them. The outcome or results of the linkages of those four areas are not pronounced. That's what I want to say. They are not pronounced by these policies, and therefore they are not known to the public. There is limited awareness about those outcomes, and yet there are many outcomes. Kama nilivyotoa mifano hapa, there are many outcomes. Some of them are positive, and some of them are negative, which we have not tried hard to make use of. There is a similar picture at the regional level. We realize that there is a similar picture. We have a number of regional policy and strategies which acknowledges the importance of agro-processing and all this, but the outcome of the linkages between those four areas is not coming out very clearly. And as I said before, kuna fursa nyingi sana zinazotokana na mahusiano ya hayo maeneo manne. Ziko nyingi tu, but we also have what I prefer to use spillover costs, yani kama threats, kama risks ni nyingi tu ambazo zinajitokeza. But we have not been able kwa upande wa fursa to make use of those fursa, na kwa upande wa hizi spillover costs, hizi threats, to kind of mitigate them. Those efforts are not there, and the policies are basically silent in that. They don't say it. Yet hizi risks na hizi fursa ni nyingi sana. I gave examples, and I can also give some more examples. Kwa mfano, risks and uncertainties on agricultural productivity kutokana na climate variability through drought na kutokana na floods are posing serious threat to agriculture, to the Tanzanian and East African agricultural sector. Wote tunafahamu hiyo. And these are the relationship between agriculture and the climate change. Kuna serious threat. Lakini we are asking here, where is the response? Have we seen enough response kutokana na hayo matokeo, kutokana na hizo outcomes za mahusiano kati ya climate change na kilimo? Kwa mfano, we have enough irrigation scheme? Sababu hizo ndo response ambazo tulikuwa tunazitegemea ziwe nyingi, kuwe na irrigation schemes nyingi, sababu ina mitigate hayo matokeo ya mahusiano ya hizo sectors mbili. Our agricultural financing is very limited in this country, so we don't have those responses. Kuna matatizo ya post harvest losses in Tanzania which are very high. I'm told in the horticulture products, horticulture subsector is close to 60 or 70%. We are we are losing those crops, post harvest losses. Na mazao mengine nafikiri slightly below that, maybe 30% or something. But where are the requisite responses? Hakuna. We don't have enough responses. Agro-processing, kwa mfano, could have been one of those mitigation ya kupunguza post-harvest loss. But where are the agro-processing? Hakuna. Climate change has made, nilitoa mfano kwa waandishi pale nje, had made it possible for some areas which were not growing tropical crops, like in Njombe. I like using that example because I have been there doing, conducting a survey. So the climate change has made it possible for Njombe to grow flowers today, to grow fruits, na mazao mengine mengi tu tropical crops. Sasa hivi wakulima, hiyo ni fursa kutokana na mahusiano ya kilimo na climate change. That is a spillover benefit. That is an opportunity. But I'm asking here, where are the interventions to support and make use of such opportunities? Nika fursa hako, lakini tunawasaidiaje wakulima wa Njombe sasa na maeneo mengine ambayo yana hiyo opportunity kuhakikisha tuna reap, wazungu wanasema, we get the most out of that opportunity. Sababu hiyo opportunity haiko hapa to stay forever. Inawezekana itakuwepo kwa muda alafu it will not be there. So what are we doing to make sure that we optimize? Sisi wa economists tutatumia neno optimization, hiyo fursa, hiyo opportunity. Kwa hiyo we are saying that is a gap. That is a gap which is partly because hivi vitu ni vipya. These things are new. Believe me, they are new. Sio rahisi kufikiria sana huko mbali. Kwa sababu vitu vinakuja sasa, vinaanza kujitokeza. Partly because of that. Lakini we need to run instead of walking. To why kuchukua hizo, kutumia hizo fursa. And I can tell you, it's a pity because Tanzania ni kati ya nchi ambazo tuna experience slow kind of response kwenye mambo mengi. Mimi wakati wa uhuru tulikuwa tunazalisha hizi primary products. We were very good in coffee, cotton, mazao kasaiso, na soko lilikuwepo, if you remember, for those who were there. I hope all of us were there. Soko lilikuwepo all over the world. Unauza kahawa, unauza pamba, unauza nini. Na tukabweteka, unfortunately. Tukasema we are growing coffee. Tatizo ni nini? No worries. Na soko lipo. Baadaye yakatokea mabadiliko. When there is this what they call global economic change, tunachukua muda kurespond. Kwa hiyo kukatokea na mabadiliko, kukawa na discoveries of synthetic materials. Nakumbuka wakati ule Viwanda vikawa vinatengeneza nguo kutumia synthetic materials. Kukawa na nchi ambazo zilikuwa zizalishi kahawa, zinazalisha sasa cotton and so on. Lakini hakuna aliyeelewa, maybe the capacity is limited, kwamba jamani kuna mabadiliko huko kwenye soko letu tunakouza bidhaa zetu. Kwa hiyo we have to do something. Hakuna aliyefikiria, tukasema tu tunazalisha kahawa, tunazalisha cotton. We have been very slow. Tunakuja kusituka, tumeshapitwa na wakati. Kwa hiyo na share hiyo experience na huku ni hivyo kwamba we need to run actually instead of walking. Hizi fursa zinazotokana na linkages of those sectors tuzitumie sasa, sio baadaye. Kwa upande wa kina mama, if you look at our report, there are so many interesting findings, but this is a summary. Now, if you look at the area of women, it was very clear from our survey that they play a very essential role in agricultural production. Evidence imetuonyesha, not from our survey alone, but also from other studies, kwamba women in Tanzania take charge of most of the activities kwenye value chain ya mihogo na ya paddy. They do most of the things. Wanafanya weeding, wanafanya harvesting, wanafanya processing. Many women wanafanya storage, but unfortunately of less profitable food crops kama maharage, cassava, sweet potatoes, and so on. Akina baba, they tend to contribute more in site clearing, kazi zile ambazo zinatumia zaidi muscles, site clearing, land preparation, those heavy labor tasks kama construction of fences and so on. Hicho ndio tulichokiona. There are more stories in the report. We should also mention that agro-processing development have recently been earmarked as a priority in Tanzania. Ndio maana tuna the theme of the current 5-year development plan, industrialization for human development. Kwa hiyo, thank God, agro-processing imepata uzito. Na nafikiri we have done that for many reasons. Among them ni advantages zilizoko kwenye rural-based industries. Rural-based industries that generate employment. And we all know that kuna surplus labor kwenye agriculture sector. Kuna labor ambayo haina, it is not utilized. So with the agro industry, obviously the surplus labor will be utilized. Lakini agro processing ina facilitate, ina promote trade, kwa sababu ina diversify market. Ukiwa na primary, the market for primary commodities is not the same as the market for processed products. Ndio. Kwa hiyo kama unafanya agro industry, maana yake ni kwamba una diversify market, unaongeza soko. And I think the other advantage is, of course, to recover the rural-based industries which we lost. Ndio. Sasa tumepoteza vile viwanda. So to recover them, but I think it's also because, kama nilivyosema, 5-year development plan 2 ina emphasize industrialization. Conclusion. I have 4 bullets there. One is saying agro industries have a close association to climate change, trade, and food security. There is no doubt about it. We saw it. It is very clear. And these linkages have tended to bring about spillover benefits, kama nilivyosema, as well as spillover costs, which affects our economy and therefore the living standards of the people of Tanzania. And we also acknowledge that the government has made a significant effort in terms of formulating and adopting policies and regulations related to agro-industry, climate change, trade, and food security. Lazima tutoe credit, but all of these policies acknowledges, all of them acknowledge the importance of promoting agro-industries. It's very clear, but they are not very louder. They are not louder. They are not louder enough in demonstrating and emphasizing the outcomes of those linkages between agro-industry, climate change, trade, and food security. The emerging opportunities and threats. The policies are silent. They don't say much about it. Now, what we are recommending includes a need to call for policy reviews. Sababu kama nilivyosema mwanzo, mengi haya tunayoongea ni mageni. Na hizi policies zingine ni za 2002 and so on. Zingine za 1990 something. So there is a need actually to review our existing policies, ili ziweze pia kureflect hizi results zinazozungumzia, hizi opportunities zinazojitokeza, lakini hizo threats zinazojitokeza, na kueleza namna gani tuta mitigate risks na namna gani we will make use of the opportunities and so on. And there is also a need to create awareness on the outcomes of the linkages. should make them known to the public. Wengine bado hatujui kama kuna matokeo ya namna hiyo ambayo yanahitaji mitigation measures na wengine yanahitaji investment or interventions. And there is a need to build on the emerging, I have said it already. There is a need to take measures to mitigate spillovers, I have said it already. But we also need to provide assured markets access to agro-processors, to promote direct linkage between food manufacturing factories and farmers. Hivi agro-processing tulivyotembelea na kuongea na wahusika wanasema the problem is market. I mean, hata kama ni micro scale processing, kwamba mimi hapa ningekuwa naleta mihogo mingi sana hapa, lakini sasa wakisha process nitapeleka wapi? Ndauza wapi? There is that problem. Kwa hiyo I think there's a need to do that. We need to monitor quality of inputs for agricultural production. Kwenye agriculture sector, just like other sectors, masoko yetu yamevamiwa na counterfeit products, and which affects our sectors a lot. Kwenye kilimo, kwenye EGS wanaita, wale watu wa kilimo wanafahamu inaitwa nini sio? Inaitwa nini? Early generation seeds. Kwenye market ya hizo mbegu, kuna mbegu nyingi sana ambazo ni fake. Nyingi sana. Zina distort the market na zinawapa hasara wakulima wetu ambao tayari wana vipato vyao wameruhusu. Kwa hiyo we need to make sure that we have quality of inputs in agriculture. We also need to improve sales delivery to farmers. Hiyo nayo ni muhimu sana, tumewaacha sana. Efforts zao zinakuwa wasted, mara nyingi, mifano ni mingi. Sometimes wanakuwa demotivated because nakuja mimi kutoka ofisi ya local government na promoter ambia limeni and then wakishazalisha hakuna anayeonekana kutoka local government, you know, it is demotivating. And lastly, Chairperson, we need to sensitize the public so that they consume the locally produced products. Hiyo nayo ni tatizo sana nchini. People are not consuming locally produced products. Hata kama maziwa umeyakuta nataka yalitoka Holland, kutoka South Africa, lakini ya kwetu ambayo ni mazuri, people are not interested. Hata ukienda kwenye service providers wengi, I once visited one Zanzibar, so I was staying in one hotel, na nilipokaa pale naangalia kiberiti waliniwekea mle matchbox, sabuni, you know, these small things. Ile washroom yote iko packed na vitu vya nje. Tena it is written kwenye matchbox buy Kenya. Wananiambia buy Kenya na niko Tanzania. Kiberiti matchbox. Thank you very much, Chairperson.